Good evening, everyone. I'm Amba Pandey, and I welcome you all on behalf of GRFDT today for our panel discussion, which is titled as the uh, Gender, Migration, and COVID-19, Socio-Economic and Policy Perspectives. It is the fourth panel discussion in our series, and which covers a wide area of topics related to migration, diaspora, and transnationalism. I'm extremely happy that we have, like other panel discussions, we have a list of very eminent scholars for us to speak. And also, I'm extremely happy that a very eminent scholar like Professor Kamala Ganesh is going to be the moderator of the session. Professor Kamala Ganesh is the scholar in residence, Department of Sociology at Siv Nadar University. She has taught at St. Xavier's College, SNDT Women's University, and was a professor and head of the Department of Sociology at Mumbai University. Her research interests have been in the areas of kinship, gender, feminist methodology, culture and identity, and diaspora studies. She was recently Senior Research Fellow at the Indian Council for Social Science Research, working on the theme of the Sri Lankan Tamil diaspora in exile in Germany. So you can see it is just a very brief intro of her. She has a wide range of work with her in this field. So, and especially the gender. So now I would like to invite Professor Kamala Ganesh to take over and moderate the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Amba Pandey, for your kind words. I also, on my behalf and on the behalf of FDT, welcome all of you for this fourth session on gender and COVID, with special reference to migration. I also give a special welcome to panelists who have come here, made it a point to keep themselves free, rather taken time off from housework, from washing clothes, from doing dishes, from cooking, from childcare, and also from professional work if you are working from home, and made time to be here. Of course, you all know GRFDT by now, but I just want to mention a line or two because it's a very, very special band of, I would call them a band of volunteers who started as a small core group with small funding and now have grown into a large global network, again with minimum funding, but a very enthusiastic, active and innovative group of scholars, activists, policy analysts who have converted this lockdown into an opportunity because they have organized, this is the fourth webinar, and with truly global participation. So I think it's a great occasion to be here and moderate this session. Just a few words before I hand over to the speakers. Coronavirus itself does not discriminate, we know that. But our world is an unequal one. There is inequality between species. I mean, Homo sapiens are right now at the top, but I mean, COVID could topple us soon, we don't know. And there are also inequalities among the human beings, social, economic, cultural, on cultural parameters. So pandemic affects some people in some sectors more adversely than others. And in this, gender is a very, very important parameter. Now, in this period of the last 3 months, the notion of home as a refuge, as a safe haven, has really taken literally a beating with the lockdown experience, because we all know and we have read reports that domestic violence is on the increase and women are at the receiving end of domestic violence. Now, social distancing, another term and concept that we have grown familiar with now in the last few months. Especially, it is very difficult for some people, especially for the urban poor who live in chawls and slums in big cities like Bombay and Mumbai and to some extent Delhi. But I'm a Mumbaikar and I know what it means, not even to be poor, but even to be lower middle class and to live in such a constricted space that, and this affects both men and women, that social distancing sounds like a mockery of the way people live. Then the other thing is that women are still continue to be primary caregivers, COVID or not. And that means increased labor in the house when schools are closed, colleges are closed, workplaces are closed, and people are at home. Then it means that the work of women increases quite a lot. So, especially the organized sector women with white collar jobs, they work from home. They continue their professional work more or less from home. And most of you do that. So, the labor increase for women is not small. But there is some hope in this particular section, and we'll have to see when post COVID studies come out whether this experience has made it easier for employers to give flexi time, and whether it is a little easier to share housework with other male members of the family. I have some hopes there, but we will have to wait and watch. But what concerns us very much, especially with regard to the current topic on migration, is those people who are working in the informal sector and in low end jobs. They are the most vulnerable section for COVID. They are vulnerable anyway, but they are also at the receiving end of the trauma and problems of the COVID experience. So the informal sector is now very prominent in developing countries, and it is characterized largely. I mean, it has the high end, high salaried professionals as well, but it is largely characterized by low end jobs, casual labor, daily wages, people whose jobs are first to get axed in case of any problems in the economy. Now, migrants form a disproportionate part of the informal sector, as many of our experts will be telling you with statistics. And women also form a disproportionate part of the informal economy. So, to be a woman and a migrant, that intersection it's at the intersection of two vulnerable categories. And so you can imagine that when we are discussing gender, migration, and COVID, we know who is the most vulnerable. I mean, everybody is vulnerable to different degrees. But when policy is being made, then you have to look at the most, at the bottommost, the most vulnerable sector. And that is the poor migrant woman, who is today the topic of our discussion. Now, migration is a gendered phenomenon, and a large proportion of migrants are made up of women. Whether in globally, for example, at the moment this year, about 47 to 48% of migrants are women. Of course, there is variation between countries. Now, female migration conventionally is seen as a social migration, having to do with marriage migration or migration with family. But new research in the last decade or so is showing how married women migrants who migrate because of marriage or with family, with, let us say, an unmarried girl who is moving with her parents, they also join the labor force. So they are both economic migrants as well as marriage or family migrants. There is no such thing in the lower end of the spectrum as pure marriage migration. It is rare. But when they join the labor force, they also, for various reasons, join in the most vulnerable, in the weakest jobs where they can get thrown out very easily. There is a new category in developing countries from within this, in this informal sector, I would say, which is that of young single women who have some skills. I'm not talking about the high end, upper end of this spectrum, but I'm talking about women, young women, girls from middle class, lower middle class, and working class families who are migrating with some skills which will be suitable in the new economy, who are migrating both to urban areas within the country and sometimes outside the country as well. They are in jobs like business processing units, or in let us say food processing units, or in beauty parlors, working in a range of skilled jobs but with not very high salaries. And our special concern ought to be these women as well, because they are also in a vulnerable category. According to the International Organization for Migration, the World Migration Report 2020, nearly 3/4 of the service industry, and that includes domestic work, consists of migrant women. Migrant women, both within the country and outside, face different kinds of exploitations normally, which is that, but with the lockdown, where they are forced to stay in certain kinds of locations and unable to move out, there not only is their labor exploited, but there is also sexual exploitation. There are xenophobic reactions to migrant labor in the best of times, and under crisis situations, this kind of xenophobia becomes heightened and their access to healthcare is limited. So I think the poor migrant female labor should be at the heart of the COVID response. But how this can be, I think, is for us to discuss today. We have a whole range of experts here, and they are drawn from different countries, and their experiences are also in different countries. You have the list with you in the leaflet that was circulated.